Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Blonde and Beautiful, the podcast. If you're new here, my name's Kara, and each week I pick a piece of media with fat representation in it, and then I discuss it and talk about whether or not I think it's positive or negative. This week, we have our first TV show that we're going to be talking about, and that is Netflix's Survival of the Thickest. There's only one season, but if a second season comes out, I might do a part 2. We'll have to see. I highly recommend pausing this and going to watch the show. But if you don't have time for that or you just don't feel like doing that, I have a very short synopsis for you. So Mavis Beaumont, played by Michelle Buteau, is a 38-year-old struggling plus-size stylist hoping to climb the shaky rungs of the fashion world alongside her coworker and boyfriend of 5 years, Jacques. So the main character is Mavis, and she is played by, as I said, Michelle Buteau. Michelle is a plus-size stand-up comic, actress, TV host, producer, and podcast host. I had previously seen her as the host of The Circle, and I've also watched her Netflix comedy special prior to watching this show. So that's what I know her from. So I actually watched this show for the first time last week, and let me tell you, I do not know what was going through past Kara's mind when this show came out, because I should have watched it as soon as it came out. It was so good. And I don't know if you guys struggle with this too. I suck at starting new movies and TV shows. Like, whenever I go to watch something new, my brain says, do we want to pay attention and watch this new show, or do we want to rewatch Gilmore Girls for the 50th time? So normally Gilmore Girls wins, so I'm really glad that this podcast pushed me to watch this show sooner rather than later. You know, better late than never. For me, there are so many amazing moments in this TV show. Let's start with the fact that the main character is a plus size or fat. I say fat, not as a derogatory term, so in this I might switch out the words. But she is a fat black woman. I also like the fact that, historically, from what we've seen in the media with black women in films, there's always this huge struggle. And obviously, yes, there has to be some sort of conflict or struggle in the show or the movie to make it interesting. But I feel like they really overdo it sometimes. They make black women struggle so much. And it was refreshing to see her really thrive more than struggle in this TV show. As always, spoiler alerts, she struggles with her boyfriend cheating on her and trying to build her brand and reputation. So yes, we get to see this strong black woman fight for what she believes in, but it's not a crazy amount of conflict, which I think is very refreshing to see. I also love how confident she is throughout this show. Of course, like any normal person, she does stumble and she does at times have thoughts about her body and things like that, but it's not overly dramatized. It's not the main focus of the show, which I really appreciate. So her boyfriend in the first episode, she finds him cheating on her, and she's been with him for 5 years. After she's moved out and she's talking to her friend, she's saying how she feels that people, when they look at her and Jock and find out that he cheated, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense that he cheated on someone that looks like her. And she even says he cheated on her with a skinny version of her. And I think it's very easy for us to fall into those traps of thinking like that. We're constantly told that. It wouldn't make sense to people for me to be with I don't know, some buff, 6 foot, whatever, conventionally attractive man, then they'd be like, if I got cheated on, they'd be like, duh, like you should have expected it. But luckily, Mavis has some amazing friends in this show, and one of her friends, he immediately tells her not to breathe life into that narrative, which is so true because we are told that enough. We don't need to be saying that about ourselves or about other fellow plus size fat people. You know, it isn't healthy, and it doesn't help us in any way. It just makes us feel worse about ourselves. So I love that she has a friend like that, and I hope that, and I am lucky that I have friends like that, and I hope that people who are listening, you either have friends like that or you are able to find them. You know what? I'll be that friend. How about that? You don't need to breathe life into those types of narratives. It's really not helpful, and you are worth so much more than just what society or the media has to say about your body, because they don't know you. It's also nice that he doesn't tell her, like, stop, don't say that about yourself. You're not fat, you're beautiful. Because if there's any like thinner people listening and you have fat friends, that is not a compliment, okay? Because you know we're fat. We know we're fat. That doesn't mean that we're ugly. So just don't say that. Just be like, own who you are, you know? He recognizes that she's feeling insecure and lets her know that him cheating has nothing to do with her. People of all different sizes, genders, races get cheated on. It's unfortunate, but it happens. And to be honest, that's the cheater's problem. That's not your problem. That's their problem. They didn't respect you enough. Another thing I love about this show is that Mavis is not the only fat plus size character. Her roommate is. The people that she styles are as well. It when I tell you, it was so nice to see that and to see these characters that were flushed out. Most of them were very confident in themselves, and it was just lovely to see that. I don't think I've ever seen any media with this much fat representation and positive. There is one character that's kind of vocal about her body insecurities. Her name is Natasha, and she's the first person that Mavis styles after she leaves the like modeling or photography company that she was working with her ex. And Natasha, from what I gathered from her character, so she's like been a famous public figure model, and probably what happened is she started when she was young and probably thinner, and then as she's gotten older, you know, your body changes. That's just life. And that has, I'm sure people have commented on that because the media and just people in general love to give unsolicited comments on other people's bodies. Please stop. Thank you. But so that has made her feel insecure and scrutinize herself. And so she meets Mavis and she shows her like this corset that she's wanting her to style her in. And Mavis just lets her know right off the bat, like, no, this isn't what I want for my career. I want to dress confident plus size people and show the world that we can be stylish, that we can be sexy, help people feel confident. She's like, if you're gonna wear that corset, like, I can't style you. I'm sorry. And she also, one of my favorite lines, it's very funny. She says, you don't have to look like a virgin from Bridgerton. And I felt that in my soul because other than Penelope, literally every main character is skinny or like a super buff, conventionally attractive man. Which, like, I don't mind seeing them. But, we don't need to look like that. That's unrealistic, to be honest. So that brings me to my, like, favorite part of this show. So Mavis is styling like lingerie line for Nicole Byer. And she uses the Birds of Paradise flower as her inspiration. And so when they're at the event, a reporter is talking to Nicole, and then Mavis comes up and she's like, "Here's my designer, ask her." And so when they asked her about like her inspiration, why did she choose the Birds of Paradise? She says, so basically, as plus size women, we are always being told to shrink ourselves. Everyone's telling us to lose weight, be smaller, but the Birds of Paradise flowers, they bloom only when there's enough light. And so she says that she really just wanted to take beautiful, she calls them kings, queens, and non-binary people, and just showcase them in this beautiful, bright, bold colors and the light, because these flowers don't let the world shame them into shrinking, and we shouldn't let the world shame us into shrinking. And when I tell you, I might have cried a little bit at that, because the more I put myself out there, the more people want me to hide. And most days I'm like, I don't care, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm actually possibly helping people. And I'm going to keep being me, no matter what you say. Other days, it's harder. But this is exactly why I produce content like this podcast. Because we deserve to feel like we can take up space, and that we deserve to be seen for who we are. Not some caricature of a fat person, but who we really are. Some days, like I said, may be harder than others, but if you're listening to this and you identify as, plus size, fat, husky, thick, whatever, curvy, whatever you want to call yourself, I beg you to not let the world tell you that you don't deserve to be seen. If someone tells you that you should be less, be more. And if you're not in a safe space, create a safe space, And I know that's easier said than done, but it really is worth it. So, I bet you'll never guess. But, is this positive or is this negative fat representation? I'm definitely going to say positive. With Evelyn Couch a couple episodes ago, she wasn't like a bad character, but she wasn't what I saw myself as, how I wanted to be represented. This show is how I want to be represented. I pray that once all these strikes are over, that they're able to make more episodes, because we need it. We really do. It's definitely positive. Mavis is very positive. Majority of the fat characters in this are positive representation. And not only that, but they're funny. They're not the butt of the joke. They're not the butt of the joke while still remaining funny. Their humor is not about being fat. And it's just about life, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, if you're somehow listening to this, Michelle Buteau, for writing and starring in this show because it meant a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to other people too. Well, that's all for this week's episode. I hope that you liked the TV show episode. We're going to have a couple more in this season, so definitely let me know your thoughts on that if you liked us branching out from the movies. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please follow, rate us 5 stars, leave a review. It would mean so much. If you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe, like, comment your thoughts. As always, you can follow the podcast on social media, on Instagram at bbb.podcast and on TikTok at bbb.thepodcast. And you can follow me, your host, on TikTok and Instagram at Carolina Howie. And until next time, stay fat and fabulous. Bye.